It's like every time I think I've finally got a grip on things, like just figured out AI image generators, bam,
Yeah.
some new tech pops up, and it's like, now you got to learn how to have a digital clone attend meetings for you.
Ah,
It's a lot,
it is. It is. It really is.
Makes you wonder if anyone can actually keep up with all this change.
Well, and I think that's the real crux of it, right? It isn't just that things are changing. It's the speed at which it's all happening.
Oh, absolutely.
We're kind of hardwired to think in a linear way, right?
Yes.
Take one step, you move one step ahead.
Makes sense.
But technology doesn't play by those rules. It's all about exponential growth.
And that is exactly what we're diving into today.
Okay, yeah.
With this book about, navigating an exponential world, there's this analogy in it, really gets you thinking.
Okay.
Imagine taking 30 steps. Linear thinking.
Yeah.
That gets you, 30 steps ahead.
Yeah.
But exponential.
Yeah.
Those 30 steps, they could launch you 1 billion miles away.
1 billion, wow, yeah.
It's mind-blowing when you really think about that kind of scale.
It really puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because it's that difference, that massive leap in scale, that helps explain why it feels like we're constantly drowning in information these days.
Oh, 100%.
Like our brains are stuck on linear while the world's gone and switched to warp speed.
And we're all just trying to keep up.
Exactly.
So if this constant acceleration is leading to, like the book talks about, information overload, shortened attention spans, it's like, is there even a way to adapt to that?
Right. Because is it even possible to rewire our brains to think exponentially?
Yeah, or are we all just going to be stuck reacting to every new wave of tech that comes crashing down?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's what we're going to dig into today.
So how do we even begin to wrap our heads around this whole exponential change thing? Is there a way to make it feel less, abstract?
Well, the book actually dives into this really cool concept called time-space compression.
Time-space compression. Okay.
And before you think, oh, great, another complicated theory, trust me, this is something you experience every single day.
All right, I'm listening. Break it down for me.
Okay, so imagine, just for a second, it's the 1500s.
Okay.
You want to get from, say, Europe to Asia. What are you doing?
Sailing, right.
Exactly. You're hopping on a ship.
Months at sea.
Months at sea, at the mercy of the winds and the currents.
Everything's just so much slower back then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
News travels as fast as those ships, right?
Right.
So the world feels massive because information takes forever to get around. Now, fast forward a few centuries.
Okay.
1900s, we've got trains, steamships.
Eventually planes.
Planes, exactly. Suddenly, that journey across the world, it's not months anymore, it's weeks, days even.
The world's shrinking.
The world is literally shrinking, yeah, because information can travel faster.
Makes sense.
But here's where it gets really wild. In the past few decades, digital technology, it's basically obliterated distance.
Yeah.
Zoom meetings, instant communication.
We can be anywhere.
We can be everywhere at once. And so can information.
Wow.
That's time-space compression in action.
Yeah, that really puts things in perspective. Because I remember, like, back in the day, getting a letter in the mail, that was the highlight of my month. Now, it's like, if my phone's not buzzing every 5 seconds, I feel like I'm missing something.
And the book actually takes this idea even further with this visual they call the time-space compression funnel.
Okay.
It kind of shows how, even with all this progress, we're not done yet.
It's hard to imagine going any faster.
Right. But the next frontier, brain-computer interfaces.
Brain-computer interfaces, is that like what it sounds like?
Yeah, BCI, for short.
BCI, okay.
Essentially, it's technology that would allow our minds to directly interface with computers with information.
So we're talking about a world where we're not even just accessing information instantly, we're like plugging our brains into the internet.
That's the idea, and it's closer than we might think.
Wow. Okay, so to bring it back to my earlier question.
Yeah.
How do we even make sense of all this?
Right.
How do we prepare for a future where technology is evolving at this like breakneck pace?
Yeah.
So with this time-space compression thing, how can we actually use it to, anticipate the future instead of just reacting to it?
Well, the book actually gives us a pretty handy tool for that.
Okay, I like handy tools. What is it?
It's called the 6 Ds of exponential technology growth.
6 Ds.
And I know, another acronym, right?
Yeah, kind of hard to avoid those these days.
It's true. But these Ds, think of them less like an acronym and more like signposts.
Signposts.
Yeah, like along the road, pointing out the path that technology takes as it grows exponentially.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me those signposts. What are the 6 Ds?
All right, so the first D is digitized. Pretty straightforward, right?
Makes sense. Got to be digital these days.
Exactly. For anything to really explode exponentially, it needs to exist in that digital realm first.
Yeah, like music, maps.
Even our DNA can be digitized now. It's amazing.
It's like, what isn't digital at this point?
Right. And that's just the starting point.
Okay, so what's D number 2?
Number 2 is deceptive.
Deceptive. Okay.
This is where things get interesting because the early stages of any tech, they often seem kind of, well, underwhelming.
Underwhelming how?
Like they seem slow, almost niche, you know?
Oh, I get it. So it's like, yeah, this new thing is kind of cool, but is it really going to be that big of a deal?
Exactly. Because hidden beneath that seemingly slow growth, there's often this huge potential for disruption.
Which brings us to D number 3, I'm guessing.
You got it. Disruptive.
This is where things really take off. We see that famous hockey stick curve.
Hockey stick curve. Okay, now you've got to explain that one for those of us who aren't, like, hockey aficionados.
Right. Good point. Imagine the shape of a hockey stick, right? Starts off kind of flat, almost horizontal, and then bam, shoots straight up.
Okay, I see it.
That's what happens when a technology suddenly explodes in popularity.
So, like, smartphones. Those went from kind of cool to, like, essential crazy fast.
Exactly. And it happens everywhere. Spotify disrupting the music industry, Uber changing the transportation game.
Okay, so we've hit digital, deceptive, disruptive. What's next?
Next up is demonetized.
So it gets cheaper.
Way cheaper. Think about how expensive a good digital camera used to be. Now the one in your pocket probably takes better pictures. It's true. I remember saving up for months for my first digital camera, and now I mostly just use my phone.
And that's demonetization in action. Something that used to be a luxury becomes accessible to practically anyone.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it like that.
Absolutely. And as these technologies become more powerful and more affordable, something else starts to happen.
Dematerialized.
Dematerialized, so it disappears.
Well, sort of. Think about all the physical stuff we used to need.
Like CD players, cameras.
Stacks of mats, all of that.
It's all on our phones now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's dematerialization, all that physical stuff. It disappears into the digital ether.
It's kind of sad in a way. Like, I kind of miss those old paper maps sometimes.
I know what you mean. There's a certain charm to them.
Okay, so we've gotten through 5 Ds. What's the last one?
The 6th D is a big one. Democratized. Democratized, okay?
This is when a technology becomes accessible to, well, pretty much anyone.
Regardless of, like, their income or their background.
Exactly. Suddenly you don't need a $1 million recording studio to make music. You just need a laptop and some creativity.
It's pretty amazing when you think about the potential there, right? Like, anyone can be a creator now.
And that's what's so exciting about this exponential age we're living in. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about what that technology enables.
So, okay, we've got these 6 Ds, these signposts. How do we actually use them? Like,
Yeah.
what does this look like in our day-to-day lives?
It's about changing your perspective a bit, becoming an observer of these trends.
Okay, I could do that.
Start paying attention to what's being digitized right now, because those are the seeds of future disruption.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That thing that seems niche today, it could be the next big thing following the same path of exponential growth.
It's like that saying, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed yet.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of these 6 Ds. They give you this framework, this lens to view the world through, to help you spot those emerging trends and understand their potential impact.
So it's not about being scared of the future or overwhelmed by all this change. It's about being aware of these patterns, these trends, and using that knowledge to become more adaptable, more like future-proof.
Exactly. And maybe even a little excited about the possibilities, right?
Yeah, a little bit of optimism never hurts.
Never hurts. So next time you encounter some new technology, ask yourself, where does it fall on the 6 Ds?
I love it. It's like a game, but for understanding the future.
Exactly. All right, everyone, that's it for our deep dive today, but the conversation doesn't have to end here.
No, not at all. In fact, we want to hear from you. What are you going to analyze with the 6 Ds?
Let us know. And until next time, happy diving.